Myles McNamara in studio once again. Myles, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Kyle. Thank you. Good morning.
Good
and to
morning.
Our birthday girl.
Yes.
Found out 7 seconds ago.
I like how you said girl. Myles McNamara. What are we talking about today? How about we start? I'll tell you what. I have an idea. How about we just start from the beginning, because some people, believe it or not, in this Santa Clarita Valley do not know who you are, what you stand for, and why you come in and talk to us about what you do. So how about we start at the beginning?
Well, trust me, more don't than do, I'm sure. But I'm the owner of Comfort Keepers In-Home Care. So for folks who aren't aware of that, let me paint a quick picture for you. Imagine the circle of life, and you're a toddler, and you can't survive really without a helping hand. You're, a toddler. Well, who's taking care of you? Your heroes, your parents. They're guiding you through, they're making the decisions that you can't, et cetera, et cetera. Now go to the other end of that circle of life, and the roles have changed. Our parents have now become someone who needs a helping hand. And we are the adult children who are looking after our heroes. And more often than not, that's probably even less than true, that all the time, I would think, seniors want to stay in their own home. So we, as the adult children, now can make that happen through Comfort Keepers In-Home Care. We're not nurses. A lot of times I get, we don't need you yet. Well, to make it so you don't need me more. Meaning that we can respond and be there if mom has a slip and fall and breaks a hip or has a head trauma, what have you. But we can be there on a reduced level to be proactive, to help mom in and out of the shower, to help dad do whatever he's doing to keep him stable. So that circle of life comes full circle, and now sometimes our adult children are thrust into a role that's very unenviable, which our heroes can no longer make sometimes the decisions that are best for them. So we have to now parent our parents. And I've never met a senior in 18 years of doing this that needs help. I mean,
you're right.
They're proud. They don't want to be a burden. They are independent. So there's a way to do that, to protect their dignity and to respect them. That's why a lot of times we don't even use the term caregiver. We use personal assistant, valet, concierge. I mean, we go through our entire life, if we can, hiring people to help us around our house, domestic workers, whatever.
It's really honestly, it's just a continuation of that with a couple of extras thrown in.
Exactly.
If you need a little help with the medications or something like that. But honestly, that's really what it is, Myles. And
well, what I want to speak to, Tori, right now for our listeners are the adult children. Because you can't believe how many times that we do an assessment and mom and dad need the help in the worst way. And the adult children come back and say, yeah, I know, you're right, but mom won't let us do it.
Yeah, what do you say then, Myles?
That's
what do
where
you do?
You have to talk to people, get some support, because you can't take no for an answer anymore. As I said earlier, they sometimes don't make the right decisions, and our seniors are amazing, but as I said, they're independent. They don't want to be a burden. So it's a slippery slope to be respectful, but it's like if you want to stay in your own home. We can't blindly not pay attention to the dangers without a helping hand.
Can you help with that transition? If we call you, Myles, and say, listen, mom and dad need a little help, but they don't want it. How can we explain it better? Can you guys come in and maybe help with that transition?
Absolutely, and we do that all the time. And then there's the senior center. The senior center has amazing case managers and social workers. But what we usually tell our adult children and our seniors straight up is this is as much for the adult kids as it is for you, because a lot of time the adult kids are running around taking their own kids to soccer practice and school and doing all these things. Then they've got to run over at the end of the day to make sure mom and dad ate well, took their medications on time, and they're so if we let our amazing seniors know that this is for them as much as it is for the seniors.
Sure.
And that then when our adult kids come over, they can be the adult kids. They don't have to be the chore master. They don't have to go over and fly in and make sure the fridge is stocked and the med tray is filled and all these things.
Sure.
They can go in and have quality time with mom and dad and let them have their personal assistant do all those things. I mean, again, we're not nurses, and a lot of times people misinterpret that, and we can make sure that that we help with the personal hygiene, throw in the load of laundry, do the meal preparation, clean clean up around the house, do the things that allow our seniors to stay in their own home, and that's been our main objective for 18 plus years.
I know we're going to talk about something very special in a second, that a project that you're working on, but I want to ask if we plan ahead of time. Let's say, like you and I, at some point we might need this help. If we plan ahead of time and write down our instructions when we know that it's the right thing to do, is that something that can maybe help in the future?
Are you talking about in the form of like an advanced healthcare directive?
But not quite that, because it's not like you said, you guys aren't nurses. What I'm saying is, but if we just take a step toward, talking to our kids and saying, hey, listen, if the time comes and I need a little extra help, don't hesitate. I might fight you on it, but now that I am in sound mind and I know that is it a thing we should do? Be proactive about that kind of thing.
It's always good. We call it the talk. But the only thing I'll remind you is now, however many decades down the road, when you're starting to be cognitively impaired and challenged, you're not going to possibly remember doing that, and you're going to tell your kids, you're all wet, get out of my house, I don't need you here, leave me alone. So again, it's all how you approach it with dignity and respect and compassion, but you've got to be firm, because again, we don't give a second thought to hiring a gardener or a housekeeper or an electrician or a plumber.
No, we do it all the time.
And that's where we have to keep this in the framework of our seniors. So don't use caregiver. Use a personal assistant that's going to come in and help around the house with the chores and the events that they have a little bit of a challenge and struggle with now.
You betcha. Good advice. Real quick, I know you're working on a project. Can you tell me about it?
Well, we're done with it, actually. We've got the Lamborghini sitting in the garage waiting for someone to drive it. So, yeah, I've been working with Larry Schallert and the COC Suicide Prevention and Awareness Committee, and through the city's assistance with the funding and such, we've done a film that is ready for viewing. And I want to let our listeners know that if you have any contact with school districts and senior centers or what have you, and I know Larry and the COC committee, they have what they call the campaign committee, and we're putting it out there. But I also want our listeners to know that suicide is an epidemic in our country right now. And I've written down some notes here, which I should have memorized. But if you think about this just for a minute, it's the 10th leading cause of death in the entire United States. Think of all the accidents, diseases. It's the 10th leading cause. Now hear this: it's the second leading cause of death for ages between 15 and 34. So it's huge.
That's huge.
And a lot of times, so this film focuses on the signs to look for. That if you have a loved one, a friend, or whoever who may be contemplating taking their life, that not only the signs to recognize, but then what do you do when you recognize those signs to approach that person, to get them help, to get them talking? Because sometimes it's just a simple, hey, you okay? To get someone talking and not take their own life. So this is huge. It's it talks about the risk factors involved. It talks about the signs that we miss. We have a couple of amazing ladies who shared their loss of a loved one to suicide, and how now looking back what they would have done a little differently and what they're suggesting. So it's a great tool. So if you would like to have a look and use this suicide prevention and awareness film, contact Larry Schallert over at COC. If you can drop me an email at Myles with a Y at comfortkeepers.com, I can drop box it to you. I can make sure that you can at least see it. But if you are involved in a church or an organization or the school or whatever, don't overlook the fact that mental health has a stigma that no one wants to talk about. And I think I mentioned on one of our shows before, we go to the gym to take care of our physical health. Well, sometimes we have to tune up our mental health as well. And there's such a negative stigma to anybody, struggling with depression or mental illness, and it just spirals out of control.
Well, Myles, that's how we grew up. If you remember when we were kids, and there was, shrink talk, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to a shrink. It was kind of taboo. It was kind of.
But as everything does, things have changed.
We've evolved. Hopefully, we've evolved.
Right. We've got to now be the leaders to let especially our teens with bullying and cyberbullying and stuff. We have to now acknowledge that we've evolved. And let the folks, and that's what this film really shows, is some of the signs to look for to approach that person who may be still stuck in that past, stigmatized, I can't tell anybody.
You bet.
To start them talking. just to have that conversation. And again, we in the film we talk about how suicide is non-discriminatory. So the people that we don't even have an iota of thought that may be depressed or it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you have, what kind of clothes you wear.
No, look at some of the celebs that we thought, Robin Williams. We thought he's on top of the world. He's this brilliant comedian. He's done wonderful films.
Clinical depression,
right?
Yeah.
Who knew? Who knew? You're right. It you can't always tell. Now, in the film, a quick question about the film: does it address certain? You said it addresses certain signs. Does it address how we then go about if we see a sign? How we go about dealing with that?
And Donnell Durubez, hi Donnell, if you're listening, she kind of brings it all home at the end of you recognize this sign. What do you do now? So she shares how to have that conversation. She shares all the resources. We did a Santa Clarita version and show all the amazing resources in Santa Clarita. And then what we called a national version. So we can get this out there anywhere in the United States, and it shows the national hotlines and text numbers and things that you can do. But yeah, Donnell brings it home of, exactly that. What do you do now? And it's interesting. The biggest thing I'll learn, and I know we're getting short on time, is, you always heard about the suicide prevention hotline. I always just thought that was for someone who was struggling and considering suicide.
Right.
No, it's for you and me if we see a friend and have that conversation and now we don't know what to do next.
Right.
That suicide hotline is for us as people who recognize signs to say, help, what do I do? I think my friend's spiraling out of control. They're depressed. They're talking like they want to take their own life. Help. So that suicide hotline is for everybody, someone who may be struggling with mental health issues or thoughts of suicide, or someone who recognizes a sign and they don't know what their next step is. But then again, we have amazing local resources that the film talks about. And so I would encourage, drop me an email, as I said, Myles with a Y at comfortkeepers.com. Call KHTS. They know how to get a hold of Larry Schallert, as do I, over at COC. But just step up and get involved.
Eventually, will it be on YouTube, or is there going to be it will?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Great information this morning, Myles. Thank you so much for dropping in. We've talked about having mom and dad a personal assistant.
Yes.
We're changing the word.
That's right.
We're changing the word. We've also talked about this amazing film that you guys have put together on suicide.
I talked to Jerry and Carl. We're going to be rolling this out on KHTS in the next few weeks, and I've talked to Larry to have him on my Aging with Power show and really do a rollout of this film that's going to live on the hometownstation.com as well.
Oh, fantastic!
And
okay.
some thoughts about what we've talked about.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. Always fun having you in.
Thank you.